is really betting on internal growth, internal development, and they're betting on themselves to scout talent in the draft. Most recent draft, as we know, they selected 4 players. So one of the segments I wanted to do today is go through all 4 of these players and try to predict what their NBA stat line, will look like. Hey, you gotta chill. Oh my God. Enough. Yeah. I'm gonna go through all. Oh my God. This is what I deal with. This fucking apartment. As I was saying, I'm gonna go through all 4 of these rookies and try and predict what their stat line is going to be for the upcoming season. We are back at it again on Amateur Hour Clips, where we continue to provide you with Toronto Raptors news coverage and analysis. But over on this channel, we take the best highlights and segments from the main channel, Amateur Hour Sports, where we do live streams covering the Raptors even further and put them on this channel to make it a whole lot easier for you to consume the content. If you like what you see from this video today, make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we're always dropping content over here that you're not going to want to miss out on, especially if you are a Toronto Raptors fan. And also along the way, it really does support the channel if you smash that like button. Now, let's get back to the video. I made a little presentation for this one. So we got some visuals for this. Guessing Raptors rookie stat lines 2024-2025. We're going to go in order, the order in which they were drafted. I'll give some thoughts and a little bit of my opinion on the player as we go through this as well. As you can also hear the dog in the background. Let's get started. First of all, Jacoby Walter. There's not a lot of great photos. It's a bit grainy, but not a lot of great photos. Anyways, Jacoby Walter, you know who it is. 19th overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft. The Raptors had 1 first-round pick. They used it on Jacoby Walter. I was surprised that he fell all the way to 19th overall. I saw it. I say I'm surprised, but I also, in my mock draft, had Jacoby Walter going to the Raptors. But I just saw the reality where teams would end up passing on him based on the players available. It did end up coming to fruition. It did end up on the Raptors, but I feel as though he had lottery pick potential. Didn't end up happening. And the Raptors are the benefactors of that. He was a bit underwhelming, honestly, in his college season with Baylor based on these statistics, based on what I have seen. But it was still enough to give him a 19th overall selection. Some of that was based on his reputation as well going into the college season. But where there was a bit to be desired was his efficiency. Was not super efficient from anywhere really in college, as we can see from his stats here. Under 38% shooting from the field, about 34% shooting from 3, but he has the nice 6'5", long wingspan frame where we really want to see him grow as a 3-and-D shooting guard. I think that's exactly what the Raptors could use. That being said, even with a little bit of summer league evidence, there might be some growing pains for the player, kind of like Grady Dick adjusting to the range in the NBA. So I see a role being carved out for him. Not a massive one, not a super efficient one. However, a good stepping stone to get things started for his NBA career. 7.3 points, just over an assist, just over 2 rebounds, slightly under 40% from 3, or from the field, excuse me, which would obviously something that we'd like to see improve, but he is a young player. I have to remind you, not all rookies are equal. He's a one-and-done college player. But if we do see 33% plus from 3, I will be happy. And I think good signs will start to showcase for Jacoby Walter. And obviously, these statistics are on a per-season basis. So, they could be slower out the gate, and he could pick up as the season goes on and start to produce a lot more near the end of the season. But I think that this is a more of a safe bet. As always, with these sorts of predictions, I'd love if he averaged 20 and maybe look like a fool when you look back on this slideshow here and this video here, the stream here. But, I'm trying to be a little bit sensible with my prediction here. I'm going to go with these stats here. Maybe underwhelming to some, but again, a good start for his NBA career. Remind you, Grady Dick, who we're big fans of, averaged 8.5 points per game this season. So, it can be difficult, but we're still impressed by those numbers. I might still be impressed by Jacoby Walter with statistics like that. Let's go to Jonathan Mobo. This one's a bit more difficult. Honestly, didn't know a ton about Mobo going into the draft. We didn't get a ton of a look at him when it came to NBA Summer League, but I think there will be a certain role here. Part of the problem for him will be the fact that the Raptors don't have like phenomenal depth, but they have a lot of depth. Like there's a lot of decent players who would likely think they warrant some game time. So it might be difficult to get him consistent play time, but I think there's some spots where the Raptors are going to want to use him. I think he will play pretty split with the G League Raptors 905 and with the NBA team. We shall see. But for me, there will be a bit of an adjustment phase. We'll need to figure out what his role is, because the reality is, even though he's got a monster wingspan, he makes up for that to play as a center. He still lacks a little bit of height. He can't shoot. Like, all he can do is score at the rim. So, we won't get a ton of minutes, but I still think that there's enough to say he can average above 50% from the field at 53. That might be underestimating him as well. But I think 3 points per game, looking maybe around three rebounds per game as well, I think that would be a solid base for a player who was drafted in the second round. And I think the Raptors still will want to see a little bit out of him this season, but I don't expect a big role to be forthcoming for the player. Not trying to be disrespectful here, but he's a rookie. He's going to have to grow into his role. Next player on the list, Jamal Shed, 45th overall pick at the recent NBA draft. I do think that he will have a little bit of a battle going on between David Mitchell for backup point guard minutes. It's David Mitchell's to lose, but with injuries, with perhaps tanking, rotation, I think Jamal Shed is going to have minutes coming his way. Where Jamal Shed is going to have to take steps forward, it's definitely going to have to be from a shooting standpoint and some sort of a scoring standpoint. Played 4 years of college ball with Houston, where decorated college player, fantastic college player. However, he's a small point guard at 6'1", who doesn't space the floor or have a ton of range. So you question how he's going to be able to bend the defense out there, how he's going to create things. So for me, the big question mark will be, what is that three-point shot going to look like? If the three-point shot is falling, he can have a big role. But I don't expect it to be phenomenal, but I expect to see some little bit out of him. We're going to go 5.3 points per game. I added a steal category here. 2 assists per game, 1 rebound, 41% from the field, because this can be hard for him to score. 26% from 3, because he just never has been consistent from 3, even in college, and 0.3 steals per game. The name of his game is defense. You can't really quantify defense in a lot of respects. Steals and blocks are obviously something, but they don't really indicate everything for an on-ball pest like himself and a floor general like himself. But I still think he can provide a little bit to the team and give decent minutes. Excuse me, sorry, I hit the mic. And give decent minutes for the team coming off the bench. That gives us the final player. Another tough one. Shed, 57th overall pick by the Raptors. Just not a lot of game experience or statistical evidence to go off of in predicting here. He's on a 2-way contract, so hopefully he will get some minutes in the NBA and we get to see him. But I'd be pretty surprised if we got to a stage where Shed was getting like consistent rotation minutes for the team this season. Really liked what I saw in Summer League. Really like the possibilities with his potential, but it's just not going to happen out of year one. When he does play, hoping to see above 50% shooting from the field, 2 points per game. It's hard to really quantify for a player who's just not going to play that much here, but I think that there are a lot of positive signs associated with Shed, and I'm really, really, really excited to see what he looks like with the Raptors 905 in the G League in a structured setting, because again, Raptors Summer League, from what I saw of it, there wasn't a lot to be thrilled with, but one of the things to be thrilled with is the possibility of working with this kid and developing him for the long term. I can see why the Raptors wanted to trade back into the draft that late to get him, because there is promise there. And this is the type of player that the Raptors organization is absolutely going to relish working with. So, I don't want to be, seem like this is trying to be like underwhelming for these players, but it's difficult to come in and thrive from day one, especially in a roster that has a lot of competition in the depth, as I said. There is a lot of competition overall fighting for those later spots in the rotation. It's kind of top-heavy with Barnes, Barrett, Quickly, those kind of guys, Pirtle as well, who are like guaranteed starters. But once you get to like 8, 9, 10 in the roster, a lot of guys will be thinking that spot is for them. So maybe even out the gate, it's going to be tough for Darko to figure out those rotations, but we shall see how things go down. And as always, hopefully these rookies blow my predictions out of the water and do even better than I'm expecting them to.